definitely consolidation in the auto space in many of them. And for example, Tata Motors has formed a base, but it's not able to inch higher. It's not able to trade above the 700, 720 mark. So this again is one stock one can keep a close watch on. Sustaining above 700, 720, we could witness a 8 to 10% rally in Tata Motors. But downside seems to be supported very strongly around the 600, 620 level.
You know, the other thing, Harsh, is IEX, right? It's a very interesting stock for today, simply because it's up 11%, still in the ban, right? Will likely come out today. But is the conversation that if the EPS impact was 20 to 30% and it's fallen 28% on the day day before yesterday, and therefore is all the pain out of the system, and that's why there's 10% uptick, or are there other reasons to it? I can't quite fathom. But I don't know if this is a sustainable rally, because the 30% damage to the EPS, 20 to 30%, whatever you call it, is real.
Yes.
And therefore it should impact not just the earnings, but the multiples as well, if you will. Whatever little premium in multiples was, it was not anyways trading at a very exorbitant multiple, but whatever little premium should also get impacted. So interesting to see this move today. It's a bit of a surprise, right?
What's your sense? Isn't the business itself going to need some rehashing? Because this is a big move, right? It's a regulatory move, regulatory-led move, but it disrupts the business model which they have.
Yeah, it does. And hence, I mean, it takes away all the benefits that they had of a monopoly, part
Correct.
one. And I think part two also, that for Sona BLW, rather for IEX, the other piece is that there is one of the markets, which is the DAM market, daily average market, has been impacted, but the others are on their way.
Correct.
If you read the order, and therefore there is more disruption to their moat in this business. I'm surprised with this 11% uptick. So let's see.
Yeah, and it's also, the management also commented on this. In fact, we spoke with Rohit Bajaj of IEX earlier today. Here's what he had to say about the profitability, market share, and what the impact will likely be, because profits being down 30%, he says, is incorrect. Listen in.
I don't go by this number that there could be 30% correction in EPS. 30% is the total size of day-ahead market. So somebody who's suggesting 30% correction in the EPS, he's saying that we would be zero. So we are today 100%, and we are all set, and we have all the avenues to maintain that leadership position in this particular segment. So I'm not saying that there cannot be any market share loss to us, but we are saying we are doing many things till now, and on that basis, we could maintain this. We are working with our stakeholders, different stakeholders, for deepening of the market. We have all the products that has been introduced in the recent past. All those products have been introduced by us before the competition, and we have technological edge. We have other edges in place. So there can be loss. I'm not denying there could be few points loss in the due to competition might happen, but we are confident of maintaining our leadership position even in this segment where we are talking about market coupling.
Right. So while that is the commentary coming in from IEX, the fascinating part was we spoke with PTC yesterday, where they really cheered this piece of regulation, and they said that this will enable them to eat into market share in a large fashion. Now, mind you, PTC, Neeraj, as you're well aware, is actually promoted by the behemoths in the power industry. So it's one power financier, the largest power producer, the largest hydropower producer, and the largest grid or grid operator in the country. And when they come out and say that they're going to take up 30% share, that's the goal, you would reckon that it's virtually their promoters who are going to likely ensure that, right?
Yeah.
So this risk seems more real than is made out to be.
Well, I don't know, difficult to say that, but it's something that we should ask our guests for sure. But in a market like this, which is so heavy, I would suspect no risk is maybe too much to bat for, or on the side of caution maybe. You differ?
Yes,
could.
I wouldn't differ. I would agree largely. Amar,
Okay.
how is this one looking on charts? Curious to know.
IEX.
Yes.
So see, if you look at IEX, I would say it did witness some decent up move from almost 160 levels in the first week of March towards 200, 215. But if you look at the stock from a long-term perspective, and when I'm talking about long-term, I'm primarily referring to the monthly charts. It's been in a clear-cut consolidation. So on the upside towards 200, 210, on the downside around 130, 120, 130. So this development which has come, definitely that seems to have unnerved the investors. That's the reason we are seeing that sharp crack. And as you rightly said, that you need to be really cautious while entering, because the fall has been very sharp. So even if there is a pullback, whether the stock is able to sustain or not, that's something one needs to keep a close watch on. If you ask me what the levels are likely to be, somewhere around 150, 160 is the immediate zone of resistance on the upside. So any pullback will be used as a shorting opportunity around the 150, 160 level. Whereas on the downside, if I go back and look at the stock, so somewhere around the June of last year, the stock had made a low of 130, 135. So, and recent lows also 131. And if I go back even more, so then the low somewhere around, that's in June of 23. So that was around 115, 120. So 115, 130, that's a very strong zone of support for the stock. The stock is likely to meet with very strong support. And that's the reason we've seen some buying coming in today, with the expectations that there could be an up move, or the negatives have been factored in. But you need to be careful. Higher levels like 160 is going to be a level where we could witness some sort of selling pressure.
Thanks so much, Amar, for that. We'll slip into a short break. 12% higher on an IEX, closing in on its day's high. But we'll have our eye out on that one. Thanks, Amar, for joining us, giving us that perspective into the break. On the other side, we'll bring you all the chatter from dealing rooms, heard on the street. Stay with us.
Welcome viewers. This is a call for Disruptor show flight dated 25th July.
During my childhood days, we used to rely on rations. My mom used to tell me, go and stand in the queue immediately. Queues is something which I think every Indian is used to.
You've come from this background where you've had to stand in queue for rations. How do you become the CEO of Digi Yatra?
Why should there be so much of friction in availing a service? And from that perspective, I think this whole thought process of Digi Yatra began. We were asked, right, to write a memorable journey experience for the passenger. And I wrote this very simple story saying that, passenger just walks through all the touch points and nobody stops him or her for anything.
The initial teething troubles, talk a bit about that, including the vendor that you had for the back end of this entire process. There were questions on transparency. There were a lot of questions on safety. Why should I give my biometrics to a government agency?
We ran the startup challenge. We had a 6 startup shortlist. 2 of them were offered to build. One of them went ahead and built this ecosystem. And yes, we had a parting of ways.
हेलो
हेलो
बोलिए मैडम, डब्बा ट्रेडिंग कब से चल रहा है पता है मैडम आपको? हम और आप तो जन्म भी नहीं हुआ था हमारा।
We investigated a shady advisory firm that has spent big bucks on advertising on the front pages of national dailies.
ये आपको बिल्कुल उसका ऐसे हल्का सा भी खौफ नहीं है।
मैडम एक बात को खौफ किस लिए रखना चाहिए तो बताओ, कौन सा गलत काम कर रहा हूँ मैं?
After our report, we also saw NSE came out with a cautionary circular to the investors. Market regulator Securities and Exchange Board of India has also come out with a release talking about the actions that it has taken. Cyber complaint has also been filed against the entities involved in this entire dabba trading scam.
The markets move fast.
And so should your portfolio.
Welcome back. Thanks for being with us here on India Market Close. Somi joining us at this hour to talk to us about what he's hearing in terms of chatter from dealing rooms. Somi, out on the street, what are you hearing?
Well, firstly, it's on Dixon Tech where there are buy flows on domestic institutional investor desk is what dealers are indicating, and they're saying that the recent government of India clearance that they've got for a joint venture with Longcheer for smartphone manufacturing is a major positive that has come in for the stock. Even in such a day, the stock is just flat in trade, it's not down, and we could see an uptick from here on is what dealers are indicating for Dixon Tech. Secondly, it's PG Electroplast which remains in focus. Dealers are indicating there are buy flows on large HNI desk on anticipation of some announcement of some joint venture announcement that could come in on the compressor segment. So keep an eye out for PG Electroplast. That could be a big announcement if at all it comes for PG Electroplast. Secondly, it's on Muthoot Finance and HDFC Life. But there are buy flows on institutional desks. Both FIs and DIs have been accumulating this counter at lower levels. For HDFC Life, they believe that there could be a rotation in investments, which means that investments from retail NBFCs could move away towards more secured life insurance companies like HDFC Life, given the fact that we are seeing concerns towards MSME lending. That is what the dealers are indicating. And when it comes to Muthoot Finance, dealers say that it is positionally it is much more secured compared to other retail NBFCs, given the fact that it has a gold backing as well. Hence the move towards Muthoot Finance and HDFC Life is what dealers are indicating. And lastly, when it comes to Apar Industries, dealers indicate that there are buy flows on HNI desk at lower levels on expectations of a strong Q1 number. So keep an eye out for Apar Industries as well into it.
So Samit, just wondering, anything being spoken about on IEX particularly?
Well, IEX, it would be interesting to see. We have seen a strong bounce back. Now, yesterday after the 30% fall, it seemed that all the negatives were priced in because analysts expected that if this was implemented in FY25, then the EPS would have been 30% low, and we did see a downtick of 30%. And more interestingly, the stock will be now coming out of FNO ban. So it would be interesting to see how the stock reacts now from Monday. Today at the MWPL is around 80%, so it should come out of the FNO ban.
Interesting. Okay. The other one that Somit really marked out, and let me quickly go to that, was something like a Dixon, something like a PG. Both of those seeing buy flows, one from the HNI desk, one from the DII desk. So those are two interesting ones as well. But let's bring in our guests, Kunal Shah, Mire Asset, Sherkhan, Chakri Lokpriya, LGT Wealth. Both of them joining us this afternoon. Good afternoon, gentlemen. First off, Chakri, let me take your view with regard to a Muthoot. Somit indicating that they are better positioned in the current setup. I want to talk a little bit about NBFCs first off, because they are ripe and they are in action today. So first, let me start off with a Muthoot. Thereafter, I'll come to a Bajaj Finance and take your views on that one as well.
In the case of Muthoot, I think, with gold at all-time prices and with the loan to value still at a fairly reasonable level, there is an inherent strength which is there in the lending business of gold. Second, these companies have gone through their own pain points in the last couple of years. They have stronger balance sheets than they are before. And third is, the valuations are not demanding. And fourth, more importantly, if we do go into a listless economy, and at that time, gold lending actually picks up, and that's clearly good for companies like Muthoot.
And Chakri, I'll come to something like a Bajaj Finance, but what about something like an HDFC Life? Because there too, Somit is saying there's a rotational trade which is at play. Financials are being sold into, and life insurance could well be a winner if that were to happen and that trade could rotate.
It could be a trade at best, because insurance is a very long tail business. And, you can't really quarter over quarter improvements are very difficult for these companies to show. And in case if there is actually a downturn in the economy because of, let's say, a tariff agreement is not reached, then in fact, insurance is the first which will suffer, because people in a downturn stop taking out insurance policies. So from that perspective, I'll stay away. It can be a trade.
Believes that we are entering a listless economy. So I think that is something to keep in mind. Let's see how it shapes up. Well, the markets are certainly looking wobbly. In fact, we are at the lowest point of the day. Kunal, some quant indicators indicating that we might be very close to extreme fear zones. Number of technical indicators saying that maybe there could be a bounce too. Do you anticipate that, or would you play for lower levels currently?
Good afternoon, everyone, and good afternoon, Neeraj. Firstly, yes, definitely. If you look at Nifty, what we have seen that Nifty has been making lower top, low bottom formations on the technical chart. The recent swing low of 24,882 that has been breached decisively. So we expect further downside on the indices. 24,450 is where the next support for the Nifty indices is. So even from the current levels, if you look at 24,850, more 400 points downside is left for the Nifty indices. So I think any intraday bounce could be an opportunity to initiate sell. On the higher end, we are not able to breach the 20 DMA on the upside, and that is where the real pain point is. And 25,200 will now act as a very strong resistance, followed by 25,000, where we have seen aggressive call writing. So our view remains negative on the indices. On the Bank Nifty front, which is where it was the leader, but again, we saw multiple rejections at 57,300, not able to surpass that. In today's trading session, we have seen the breach of 20 DMA and also the critical support of 56,700, which has been breached decisively on a closing basis. So even if you look at Bank Nifty over here, Bank Nifty's immediate support on the downside stands at 56,200, 56,000 zone. And once that is taken out, the next level comes at 55,200 on the lower end. So even on the Bank Nifty index, we are constructively on the negative side. Bank Nifty still needs confirmation, but overall the view is sideways to negative for Bank Nifty. We expect further downside coming on both the indices. Now, the real problem over here is on the mid cap and the small cap space. The CNX 100 and the CNX mid cap 100 and the small cap 100. That has given us a breakdown on the technical charts and specifically on the small cap front, we have seen a rising wedge breakdown on technicals, and that opens up for the lower level. So I think the broader market is where the real pain will continue, and mid cap and small caps will continue to bleed even further from the current levels. So we will see further downside on the mid cap and the small cap space. So any technical bonds, if you get in mid cap and small cap, that could be an opportunity to either exit or create fresh short positions.
Wow, Kunal is extremely bearish at this point. Now I'm curious to know what your picks are, Kunal, for this afternoon.
I think in this space, here one can hide into something called as pharma. So pharma is something where one should hide into. The risk to reward ratio is favorable. So my pick over here will be Lupin. In the last 3 trading sessions, the stock has been forming high formations on technical chart, exactly showing signs of reversals on the weekly chart where it has formed a bullish hammer pattern on technical. So clearly the risk to reward is favorable. 1877 should be a stop loss on the downside, and I am expecting targets of 2020 to 2060 on the higher end for Lupin. So this is one stock which is there on the buy side. Second stock over here where we spoke about the broader market correction is still there. So here I think we will continue to be on the negative side. So my pick over here from the current levels on the side will be the capital market space. I think that is negative. The capital market space has given us a breakdown. So your stocks like Scams, K Fintech, BSE, CDSL, these are the stocks which are looking weak on technicals, and here my preferred pick would be CAMS. In today's trading session, we have seen a complete breakdown of the stock on technical chart, resistance at the 20 DMA, and the recent swing low have also been taken out. So furthermore correction on CAMS, on the downside, the support is placed at 3,900. So first it will test those levels, and probably even from those levels, we can see further correction towards 3,700. So CAMS is a sell for me. Keep a stop loss of 4,200 on the upside.
Those are his couple of picks, Lupin, CAMS. But Sharda Cropchem is the stock in focus, came out with Q1 numbers. Let's pull up the stock, 15.5% higher, now 18% higher as we speak. It's at the day's high. Varsha's here to give us all of the details with regard to this one. Varsha.
Well, thank you so much, Harsh, for that. So strong numbers that Sharda Cropchem has seen. Let's see what are the key highlights, what led to the strong Q1 FY26. If you see, overall volumes increased 13% year on year, and agrochemical volumes, if you see, grew 11%, and non-agrochemical volumes grew significantly by 59%. Also, global demand revival contributed to the performance, and the improved pricing also drove performance for the company. So overall, pricing and volume growth are the two reasons why you're seeing such good numbers. Europe remains a key contributor in both sales volume and value, and the gross margin, if you see, expanded by 630 basis points to 35.5%, and input costs have also stabilized. Now onto the FY26 outlook, what company is expecting. So they are aiming to grow top line by approximately 15% for the full year FY26, and they are expecting healthy margins in the range of 15 to 18% for FY26, and the gross margins, if you see, is expected to remain in a similar range going forward. So overall, good set of numbers when it comes to Sharda Cropchem on the back of volume and pricing growth as well.
Varsha, what is the kind of number or the commentary that similar companies in this space have given in the last 2 or 3 months or this quarter?
I would say, so still a lot of agrochemicals are expected to post results, but yeah, Rallis also gave a good guidance when it comes to their seed business and of course agrochemical business. And over here, the highlighting point is also, if you see the base year, that is last year, there the volume growth was very less, and because the base was so small, that is also one of the reason you are seeing good growth, and you will be seeing good growth in all the agrochemical companies going forward.
Got it. Thanks for that. And sorry, Harsh?
Yeah, Varsha, if you're still with us, Tattva Chintan is the other one, which is absolutely flown. I'm not sure if you've had a chance to look at those numbers and give us...
Yeah, so overall, good set of numbers again with Tattva Chintan also. And if you see, since the last 4 quarters, the company has not been doing well because of their one segment, which is SDA, but that has improved. And even for FY26 and 27, they have given guidance of 25% of revenue growth with 20 to 25% of EBITDA margin. And even for FY27, they are expecting similar lines of growth. This is on the back of their SDA segment, which did not perform well, where they are expecting 30 to 40% growth in that SDA segment as well. So, and even the material cost for the company also declined, and that's one of the reasons why the margins for the company went up. So overall, because of the SDA segment doing well, company did well, and I think the stock is up almost 15%. And the guidance that the company has given is also good, because since the last few years, company has not been doing well, but giving strong guidance has also kept that sentiment up.
Well, thank you for that, Varsha. She came in with one stock, gave us 3, and faced a couple of bouncers and yorkers quite well, which obviously we Indians haven't been able to do as well in England. So, so Varsha, kudos. Thanks for that. But Chakri, some of these chemical names as well as Sharda Cropchem, anything that stood out, anything that looks interesting, both from a valuation as well as from a growth perspective?
These companies have actually been quite beaten down, and their, volumes have been very weak for the last couple of years. And so any indication that, volumes are coming back that you saw just now, you'll have that kind of reaction. But I would still wait, because we don't know where the tariffs are going to end up at. And, this is one sector which is hugely can be impacted depending upon the sectoral rate on this. And therefore, I'm saying out of the sector.
Okay. All right, we also have Amit Mahajan, Director, Paras Defense and Space Technologies, joining us at this hour. Of course, Q1 numbers being the key peg. Mr. Mahajan, this is Harsh here. Good chatting with you. Let me first start off by allowing you to give us a perspective on how the quarter has gone by, what's in store for FY26, how are we shaping up?
Harsh, good afternoon. It's always a pleasure to be on NDTV. The quarter's gone well. It's gone fair. It's definitely Q1 is never an indicator for a defense company as to how the whole year is going to go. The whole year is promising. We have strong order book. We have strong opportunity funnel. Our products are doing good. They have gone through certain evaluations. Recent trials have been very, very successful. And I think all's well.
What does your order book currently stand at the end of Q1 FY26?
At the end of Q1 also we are looking at in excess of 900. So we are sustaining our order book and we are expecting good order inflows in the next 3 to 4 months.
Amit, good afternoon, Neeraj here. The last time that we spoke wherein you got that slightly differentiated order and you had told us that this was the start, this was getting the foot in the door and then getting more orders, which I presume have much higher margins as well. So between then and now, how are the conversations, if not the actual order inflow for that variety of projects be?
See, all the projects that we've been talking about, Neeraj, it's always a pleasure to talk to you.
Likewise.
And all the orders we've been talking about, all the opportunities that we're talking about right now, they are all very, very promising, not just from the revenue perspective or the quantities and the visibility perspective, but definitely from the profitability perspective. The large factor of that profitability comes from we doing a lot of materials, raw materials, and the subsystems required for that particular product build-up in-house. And that is the driving force. If you ask me, somebody as an integrator alone, then he won't be able to derive the profits that we will be able to derive.
Well, okay, well noted. So what trend does Q1 leave you with for the rest of the year, let's say on the operational metrics and the top line maybe? I mean, I'm guessing order inflow is not a problem. So therefore it's about execution and the order mix. What does the trend therefore suggest for what you would do in FY26?
So you need two things to do up your revenue, right? One is your order book. And second is your finances to execute that order book.
Right.
Today, being a completely debt-free company, strong order book, I can tell you Q1 is just a stepping stone. It is a good start, and the year is going to be very, very nice.
Amit, the slight shrink in margins, would that be a concern at all, or will they bounce back?
So if you look at margins, I would always encourage you to look at it from a yearly perspective rather than just, the Q1. The Q1 are usually the lesser in the margins because the expenses, there is a employee expenses go up and the revenues are not the peak. So the Q3, Q4 are the real indicators which consolidate for the Q1 and Q2. So we're very good. We will sustain our margins, we will sustain our growth.
Got it. How does the full year number look like? How much of this 900 crore book do you execute? Give us that perspective or give us a refresh on that perspective. And is the goal to keep the book at maybe 2.5 to 3 times of sales? Is that the goal? Or would it be in around the 900 to 1,000 crore mark? How does that shape up?
So the order book will be around 2.5 to 3 times. That's always going to be our focus. The year is going to grow with the same growth rate that we saw last year. The order book that we have, a strong and a large part of it will be executed in this year itself. But at the same time, we are expecting certain orders which are yet to come in the next couple of months. They will come. And they'll get executed in this year as well. So overall, if we say that we are 30 to 40% growth trajectory, we will be conservative on that.
Would you need any kind of fundraising, Amit, in the next 9 to 12 months for execution, acquisition, expansion, what have you?
For all that we have on hand and for the next couple of years that we see, we don't foresee any fundraising activity per se, except if there are some exponential opportunities that come our way, then we may have to think. But for the funnel that we're looking at, for the way order book is lined up for us, we don't see any fundraising requirements as such.
Got it. Okay. Okay, Amit, we'll leave it at that. Thank you so much for taking the time out and being with us, and all the best for the quarters ahead.
Always a pleasure.
All right, that's Paras Defense with their thoughts on the quarter and the outlook ahead. By the way, defense by per se has looked very wobbly today. No surprise that even this one is down about 3.5%. Chakri, any thoughts on Paras Defense? You heard the management as well right now. Or if not Paras Defense, any other drone company, or I'm not saying Paras is just a drone company, but a Zen or a Paras or any others, or any other defense name?
You know, the entire defense space clearly has a very good amount of revenue and EPS visibility for the next, many years, at least for the next 2-3 years, and if not more. But the valuations have also moved up. And in an uncertain market, the one thing good going for the sector is the revenue visibility is strong and will continue to be strong. But in a market which is kind of weak, like the way it is now, fundamentally weak, I'm not talking obviously technically, it's weak because of the uncertainty of what the tariff rate is going to be. Then all the stocks which have run up, which valuations are high, then the growth will be discounted down. So therefore defense will be discounted down in spite of the visibility.
Okay. Okay, time for our bull and bear segment, and Bajaj Finance is a stock in focus on the back of the first quarter numbers. What is the bull argument? What is the bear argument at the current valuations for the NBFC giant? It's down 5% today, of course. Harsh is here to give us a full breakdown. And Harsh, interested in saying this.
Well, yes, larger focus, frankly, on the numbers and how Q1 FY26 has really panned out. Let me first start off with the numbers itself. Overall, the numbers were quite steady, right? Largely in line with expectations. It was essentially the commentary which had maybe a negative surprise to it. But there was no upside surprise. And with a stock that trades at over 5 times book, you would want a little bit of zing to it. You would want a little bit of upside over and above the expectations. So that is really my bear case. Now let me take it to the second bull case argument. Credit costs have tapered, and they were elevated. They've tapered down. Now they've said that we'll keep it 1.85 to 1.95%, which was the earlier guidance for FY26 where credit costs is concerned. So that guidance now remains unchanged. The taper in credit costs is extremely solid. That is largely, there's a slight positive bias, if at all, to that number. But the guidance is what surprises. They're saying that MSME stress is elevated. That is what they're seeing. And they're also seeing consumer leverage being elevated in the system. So both of those not contributing to that bull case. In fact, market taking this more negatively than positively. The UM growth was 25% YOY, 6% sequential. Really on a base that they have to continue to grow at that rate is really, really good. And that credit needs to be given to a franchise like Bajaj Finance. But by the way, housing, MSME, two-wheeler, three-wheeler, all of these are slowing down in terms of growth. They are being extremely cautious on all these three segments. Two-wheeler, three-wheeler, in fact, they're running down the book. So the book will actually run down by the end of this year by at least 2,000 to 3,000 crores. So likely impact the growth number. That we will know only at the end of Q2. Now, Rajiv Jain, he is back, and he is back till March 2028. A big thumbs up by pretty much most analysts on the street yesterday on the call itself. But he has said that succession uncertainty continues and that he has to submit a plan in the next 6 months. So that will build in a few question marks along with it as well. That what is it that they're thinking of next in terms of who's next to replace him. So that is the bull versus bear case. I want to also take you through what analysts are saying. 20 analysts have a buy, 4 have a hold, 5 have a sell. on a stock that's really run up, done extremely well, outperformed, more than 50% returns for most over the last maybe 7 odd months. But the upside now is just 7% is what they are saying, and the stock down 5%. Chakri, your view on Bajaj Finance? Chakri, can we have your view on Bajaj Finance? Sorry, believe you're on mute.
Yeah, sorry. Bajaj Finance, I think, reflects a larger concern, which is the market, the consumer is indeed slowing down. We saw that across an NBFC space as well. So this as a trend, now the lower interest rates, which have been cut by, the RBI rate cuts, is yet to flow through, and that will probably take another quarter. So against this backdrop, I think this trend is likely to continue into the next quarter. On top of that, Bajaj Finance valuation is not particularly cheap, and now they also have a transition in management. So given all this put together, I would stay away from Bajaj Finance.
Well, you have any thoughts on Bajaj Finance when the kind of move that it's done today? Kunal, the question was for you.
So Bajaj Finance, if you look at it, I think in this case also the structure is getting weaker now. And in today's trading session, the stock has breached the 20 DMA. Bounces would be a good opportunity to look on the sell side. We can expect once the stock breaches the mark of 880 on the downside, the fall will get steeper, and we will see lower levels on the stock around the mark of say 840 to 830. So again, it remains as a sell on rise mode. Bounces should be an opportunity to exit the stock.
Okay. So that's on Bajaj Finance. The stock of the day, arguably though, on a day like this, is Phoenix Mills, which is, well, moved higher for sure. In fact, over 5% and still staying strong after the robust show in the first quarter. Mahima has more details on this. Mahima.
Right, so I'll start with the first 5 key takeaways from its earnings, and there's an update on acquisition as well for this counter. Overall consumption growth remains strong at 12% for Phoenix Mills, and retail rentals have seen a growth of around 4%. Trading occupancy declined to around that 89% mark, but consumption growth overall was led by the Phoenix Palacio in Lucknow, Phoenix Citadel in Indore, Phoenix Palladium in Mumbai, and Phoenix in Ahmedabad, Palladium in Ahmedabad as well. Now 49% acquisition overall in Island Star Mall is something that they've announced, and that's expected to be value accretive for Phoenix Mill, and this is possibly the reason what the street is liking today and why the stock is up. Let's take a quick look on the numbers as well. Revenue saw a growth of around 5 odd percent, EBITDA saw a growth of around 6 odd percent, margins at 59.2% versus that of 58.7%, and net profit up 3.5%. Now about the acquisition, the Island Star Mall Developers Private Limited, it's basically operational, has an operational retail space spanning across 4.4 million square feet. Overall completed office spaces spanning around 2.2 million square feet, and plans to develop retail space another of around 0.8 million square feet office, and they also have 700 keys hotels also in their basket. The stake is to be acquired at a consideration of 5,450 is what the total consideration is. Now in terms of what brokerages are saying about the earnings as well as the acquisition, Nuvama came out with a note and has retained buy with a target price of 1944. They're saying consumption growth remains strong in Q1. They believe the stake acquisition is significantly positive for Phoenix Mills, and they expect company to deliver double-digit consumption growth in FY26 as well as 27. Queries on the other hand has revised the rating to long from ads. So that's a hold rating that the brokerage has given with a target price of 1660. They're saying that muted retail and office segment performance has continued this quarter. They expect 16% in terms of revenue growth, 15% in terms of EBITDA growth, and overall 27% growth in PAT over FY28. Now overall expansion plans on track and will aid growth in profitability according to them. Lastly, in terms of what analysts are recommending for this particular counter, there are 13 buys right now, 3 hold and 2 sell calls for Phoenix Mills, and a potential return of around 11.7%. So this is the overall view of Phoenix Mills, its numbers as well as the acquisition on the cards.
Thank you for that comprehensive view, Mahima. Coming in, Kunal, do you have a view on this one?
Yeah, I think already reality as a space have been beaten down. Phoenix Mills, if you can see on the technical charts, this has been generally 1450 has been the support zone, and we have witnessed a bounce back with volumes from those levels. And so now till the time this level is respected, you can expect some pullback into the stock towards the mark of 1600, 1620 on the upside. So overall, it's a big range for the stock. If I talk about 1700 has been strong resistance and 1450 has been the strong support zone. So you can expect the stock to consolidate in this broad range.
Okay, so that's the take coming in on a Phoenix Mills, but what we're going to do is we're going to slip into a very short break. On the other side, we're going to get you top buy today, sell tomorrow picks, and we'll continue to talk specific stocks, including taking a fundamental view on Phoenix Mills as well. Stay with us.
Welcome viewers. This is a call for Disruptor show flight dated 25th July.
During my childhood days, we used to rely on rations. My mom used to tell me, go and stand in the queue immediately. Queues is something which I think every Indian is used to.
You've come from this background where you've had to stand in queue for rations. How do you become the CEO of Digi Yatra?
Why should there be so much of friction in availing a service? And from that perspective, I think this whole thought process of Digi Yatra began. We were asked, right, to write a memorable journey experience for the passenger. And I wrote this very simple story saying that, passenger just walks through all the touch points and nobody stops him or her for anything.
The initial teething troubles, talk a bit about that, including the vendor that you had for the back end of this entire process. There were questions on transparency. There were a lot of questions on safety. Why should I give my biometrics to a government agency?
We ran the startup challenge. We had a 6 startup shortlist. 2 of them were offered to build. One of them went ahead and built this ecosystem. And yes, we had a parting of ways.
हेलो बोलिए मैडम, डब्बा ट्रेडिंग कब से चल रहा है पता है मैडम आपको? हम और आप तो जन्म भी नहीं हुआ था हमारा.
We investigated a shady advisory firm that has spent big bucks on advertising on the front pages of national dailies.
ये आपको बिल्कुल उसका ऐसे हल्का सा भी खौफ नहीं है?
मैडम एक बात को खौफ किस लिए रखना चाहिए ये तो बताओ, कौन सा गलत काम कर रहा हूँ मैं?
After our report, we also saw NSE came out with a cautionary circular to the investors. Market Regulator Securities and Exchange Board of India has also come out with a release talking about the actions that it has taken. Cyber complaint has also been filed against the entities involved in this entire dabba trading scam.
The markets move fast.
And so should your portfolio. Expert insights, real-time stock picks.
Do I buy Ola?
Should I hold ICICI CDSL for the long term?
Buy, sell or hold?
The answers you need, straight from the experts.
Callers from India and across the world. Connect live, ask, decide and invest wisely.
Your portfolio, your future. Ask Profit.
Do you really know the company you invest in? What is the real picture behind presentations and claims? Is the outlook as rosy as the company claims? Know Your Company, powered by NDTV Profit Research, shines a light on the biggest stock market movers.
Hello.
Welcome back. You're watching India Market Close. Thanks for staying with us. Now, in terms of the other big story for the day, we had Torrent Pharma and we had Investec giving a double upgrade to Torrent Pharma, upgrading it from a sell to a buy. That stock steadily gaining ground over the course of today, 4,100 being the target price. They're saying that the acquisition of JB Pharma will actually strengthen Torrent's position in chronic and probiotics, which is going to be a couple of positives coming through. You'll also have Torrent getting multiple new therapies that can scale up over the long term. Torrent has a good history of acquiring companies and capitalizing on them and scaling them. And Investec believes that they're well placed to do the same this time around as well. So while it's a debt-laden acquisition, they believe that it'll take maybe a year or two for the debt to get fully paid out, or maybe 2 to 3 years for the debt to get fully serviced, which is a key positive according to them. And in fact, they believe that Torrent, which has a history of actually outperforming their guidance, will likely do it this time as well. So they believe that. Now, in terms of the US business, the contribution to sales is low, and JB's clientele provides Torrent Pharma access to MNC clients, which is also going to be the other key positive, which is likely to play out. They're expecting the acquisition to be EPS accretive by FY28. So that's a significant positive given the kind of upgrade that we've seen Investec do on a Torrent. Kunal, let me first take a technical view with regard to a Torrent Pharma, 2.4% higher in trade today on an otherwise weak day where Pharma is outperforming. Torrent is further outperforming that pack as well.
Definitely, if you look at Torrent, the high what the stock had made at around 3,600, that has been broken out. So I think a new territory opens up for Torrent Pharma. So here, the support for the stock on the downside is now placed at 3,450. So that should be a support on the downside, and you can expect stock to go toward 3,900, 4,000 levels on the upside. So it's a positional buy, and I think any dips into the stock would be a good buying opportunity.
Okay, so taking your technical view, Chakri, what's with regard to the fundamentals? Would you agree with the way Investec looks at this?
Yeah, 2 or 3 things. One is probiotics is a higher margin business. Second is, because of the JB Chemicals acquisition, what it does is it provides them, Torrent, with a tax buffer. So it's kind of helps in therefore the earnings growth. And as the merger integrates and you go out maybe about 2-3 years out, then clearly it becomes an EPS accretive. So from that perspective, because the growth is visible and there, and now it depends upon how fast they bring down the debt. I think the company is well placed.
Okay. That's with regard to a Torrent. Chakri, if I were to push you to bet on one name within the pharma pack, which is that one name that really stands out for you and you like?
I don't think we should get into the one name bet in this market conditions. Pharma as a sector, whether it is Lupin, Cipla, Glenmark, all these companies are looking all right. And mainly it's important to recognize that, the tariffs, the least that is hit is pharmaceutical, the sector, and earnings is still visible. So given the visibility, I would buy into pharma as a pack.
Yeah, well, actually that might not be a bad strategy because there is a fair degree of, how do I say, uncertainty, and therefore you don't know what will hit you when. So maybe try and make a basket approach within sectors as well, and maybe have a broader portfolio as opposed to a concentrated one. Well, in fact, some bit of that conversation also happened on our latest episode of Talking Point Unfiltered, wherein we spoke to Old Bridge Capital's founder and CIO, Kenneth Andrade, who talked about the ongoing market cycle and whether it will change going forward. Listen into a small slice of that conversation. Kenneth, I would love to know if you reckon that the markets, the cycle that we may be in, because I know you study business cycles, you study market cycles. Are we at a point of time in the cycle wherein the chances of the cycle continuing positively are higher, or is it the other way around?
Okay, firstly, business cycles, and I hope market cycles follow the business cycles. Okay, so from a business cycle point of view, we've been at this place for a while. Okay, it's the best you've ever seen, and hopefully the best you'll ever see for some time, right? And I've been on multiple forums, including having conversations with you on where we are from a financial standpoint. Okay, corporate India is at its best ever, etc., and I don't know if it can get better from here. Okay, but one thing they refuse to do is reinvest back into the cycle. Okay, and that's becoming a genuine problem right now. It started showing up. For the last 2 years. Even 2025 over 2024, you had a single-digit growth. 2024 over 2023, you had a single-digit growth, and this year doesn't look any significantly different. Always, of course, you have a couple of companies here and there that can pull a rabbit out of its hat once in a while, but I think unless you get back to a capex cycle, more so a private capex cycle, followed by whatever the government's doing, we're stuck in that point wherein single-digit growth and very high valuations for the kind of growth you drive.
Okay, and so Kenneth, it is very difficult to maybe hypothesize what will it take for corporate India to start investing, right? So does an investor wait for that turn to happen at some point of time to take advantage of a full-blown capex cycle, or does the investor move his vision elsewhere?
So let's look at it from an investor perspective, right? I don't think you're going to get significant out of the fixed income market. Okay, it's very tight in terms of where yields are right now, and I'm not too sure that we're prepped for another rate cut given where the global macros are, right? That's one. Second, if you go back to equities, and if you look at equity valuations in a very different perspective, if you're at 22 times earnings, or even 23 times earnings, 23 times earnings, you're at about 4.5 times cash flow yield, earnings yield. And if you look at earnings and all of that is becoming cash flow, you're at 4.5%, which is equal to where your bond market would be. Okay, and you hit parity out there. So between equity and fixed income, I don't think there's too much of a choice out there, which is where you've got alternative assets doing reasonably well. So I think that's what the choice is left with an investor. So there's no risk on capital from here. I don't think there's a risk on capital from here, but you've got to lower your expectation on returns. Okay. If I look at a 5-year compounded or a 3-year compounded or a 2-year compounded, that's as best as you're going to get for a while. Okay, I don't think it's going to cross that in a hurry so far. And you hopefully consolidate around this period of time. Okay, because if your broader economic parameters or broader growth rates are going to be single digit, to expect a company or two to become growing significantly faster than that, I think that is behind us for a while. Okay, so that's what an investor should do, and that's what an investor should look at. Wait for a period of time, see how it works out.
Bide your time. That's the word coming in from Kenneth and Rade of Old Bridge. Now, I don't know how many people can do that, but if you can, I think might not be bad advice, because the markets are looking skittish. But the only question is, at these levels for the high risk trader, are some of the pockets giving value or providing value? Now, I want to start with the technicals first on this. Kunal, I want to bring you in on IT services, because a part of that conversation with Kenneth was on IT. First, the technical view. The consistent fall that we've seen in Nifty IT, does it bring them close to support levels? Could there be a bounce?
Not from the current levels, but the next support, the entire fall, what we had in the IT index, say from December 24. So we had this correction from 46,000 to the mark of 31,000. Then we had a pullback, very strong pullback rally, from 31,000 to the mark of 40,000. So that was a retracement what we saw over here for the entire downtrend. And now we expect this to come on the downside and fill the gap area of 34,200 on the downside, which is where the next support is. So we are trading currently at 35,650, 640 for the Nifty IT index. So even from the current levels, if you look, there is more than 1,000 points left for the indices to go on the downside. So I think there is still more correction, and that is what we are expecting the IT index to still correct, which will drag the Nifty index down, and that is why we have kept our targets at 24,450 on the short-term perspective.
Okay. What about you, Chakri? Are you a believer in IT stocks or not really?
We need to be a believer in what Trump is going to do or not do, because, the IT discretionary spend has largely slowed down dramatically because the companies are unsure about what the tariffs rates are going to be. Yet, only very few countries have finalized their numbers. So until that whole dust settles down, and we're not talking about US-India tariffs, but US tariffs with other major trading partners. So EU is one of them. Until that is done and dusted, companies are not going to spend on IT, and therefore, the valuations will continue to be capped, if not will be revised down.
Okay. And then, by the way, viewers, yesterday the likes of Persistent, Coforge, etc., had sunk to some serious levels. It doesn't look like the order has changed. I mean, yes, Coforge is in the green so slightly, Persistent is flat, but the point being, a lot of these stocks are still continuing remaining under pressure in today's session as well. A lot of stocks have come off, by the way. Swaraj Engines, there is Tejas Networks, Mahanagar Gas, a clutch of names have really come off in the session and trading at the day's lows. There are some which are doing well too. At least on volume front, Shyam Metallics seems to be doing okay. So they've pulled that one up. I think at least on the volume front, Shyam Metallics has a good move. On the price front as well, not too bad. Chakri, this whole steel pipe space, right? APL Apollo cutting guidance. We spoke to Sambhav Steel. That stock too has come off. I heard you speak about a skittish economy possible. What would you do with some of these steel pipes names?
Still stay away from them because, the growth rates are still not visible. There was some amount of expectation that there would be an uptick in spend that is end demand, but that's now all put on hold. And I guess I've used the word tariff a number of times in today's episode, but that seems to be the key for all the sectors, and especially the pipe sector, which is a more global facing one. So against that backdrop, I think, clearly not worth it at this point buying into those names.
APL Apollo is the one that is really important, and I just wondered, Kunal, if you have a call here on APL Apollo.
Yeah, and for APL Apollo, the next support on the downside for the stock is the gap area of 1475, and that will be tested on the lower end. So 1475, 1470, from there onwards, we can witness some pullback into the stock. So not at the current levels, it's a buy, but 1475 would be a good level for entry.
Okay. And what's your top closing strategy for the day today, Kunal?
So I think since we have seen that the markets have seen a bit of correction, so here I think it's the stock what I've been selecting is from the capital market space, and it's the index stock, that is BSE. I think BSE again looks weak on the technical charts. Here the downtrend is still intact. Today it has given a rising trendline breakdown, so your further upside we'll be seeing in coming sessions. So 2450 is where currently the stock is trading. Keep stop loss of 2510 on the upside, and one can expect further downside towards 2360 and 2310 on the downside. I think BSE is getting ready for a decent fall from the current levels.
Okay, so that's the take coming in BTST, but let's round this up because it's been an earnings heavy week, frankly. It started off with Reliance Industries last Friday post market close. Saturday we had the two big boys in terms of the banks, HDFC, ICICI, and a lot of that has impacted stock prices this week as well. In fact, 50% of Nifty companies in terms of weightage have now delivered earnings, and that provides a snapshot of how the full picture of Q1 might look like, because we're at the majority mark. So let's go across to Mahima. She's compiled all of that data. And Mahima, what is it that that our takeaway should be?
Right, so basically, more than 50% weightage from Nifty 50 has now announced its earnings. Now there are 22 companies as of now that have announced their earnings out of that 50 companies, and that includes Cipla, Shriram Finance and Bajaj Finance coming with their results today during the day, out of which 3 earnings have seen above estimates earnings, 7 below estimates, and that and overall 9 companies in line, and I'll add 3 more to this, so 12 companies that have come out with in-line set of numbers. So that includes your Shriram Finance as well as your Cipla. In terms of the top outliers from the overall basket, Zomato stands the first one because saw a significant amount of gain in trade. Losses narrowed for Blinkit as well as Hyperpure. Then we have 2 counters, that is JSW Steel as well as ICICI Bank. Strong operating profit and PAT beat estimates for ICICI Bank. For JSW Steel, overall EBITDA improved on lower coal costs and better steel prices as well. In terms of stocks that did not do well, Axis Bank, higher slippages overall and drop in NIMs was also seen for Axis Bank. Then the next one was Reliance, where EBITDA was below estimates owing to weak performance in all segments other than Jio. Then we had Nestle, where overall elevated commodity prices impacted the quarter, and revenue as well as all the other metrics did not meet estimates. Dr. Reddy's North America revenue degrew by 11%, and that was one of the reasons that dragged the earnings. Bajaj Finance, MSME book and growth is a concern right now for them. So weak set of numbers there as well. And HCL Tech, where EBIT margins was a miss, and they've lowered their guidance in terms of EBIT margins as well. Tata Consumer is the other one where margins did shrink sharply, so weak set of numbers there as well. Largely numbers that were in line, NI in line with estimates for HDFC Bank, and sharp spike in provisioning also seen. Infosys lower end of guidance, slightly increased from 0 to 3% to that 1 to 3% mark. Tata Consultancy Services, soft Q1, ramp up in second half, so positive commentary. Ultratech Cement expects double-digit volume growth in FY26, so strong commentary there as well. Jio Financial Services business building journey continues overall. And in terms of Tech Mahindra, new deal wins as well as the overall revenue also did meet estimates, so inline numbers there as well. HDFC Life, AP and VNB growth was in line with what the street was expecting. And lastly, in terms of Wipro, deal wins did see a 25% uptick quarter on quarter at around 5 billion. And lastly, SBI Life growth was largely in line, margins slightly positive there. But in terms of Cipla, good revenue growth in terms of where the North America business lies, and Bajaj Finance as well as Shriram Finance is something that Harsh will be able to give better perspective on.
Well, thanks for tossing that straight back at me, Mahima. But yes, so let me quickly actually take you through Bajaj Finance. We did speak Bajaj Finance actually in a bit of detail, so I'll let that go. But Shriram Finance, the credit cost number came in slightly better than estimates, and the margin shrink is a bit of a worry. The stock perked up as soon as the results came, but it has sunk, and now somewhere in the middle it's settled off between that high and low from the time the result has come out. So that's how at least the stock is playing out. Chakri, any thoughts with regard to how consumption is likely to play out? You know, we had some commentary as well come through. Unsecured doesn't look particularly good even now. Leverage in the system is elevated, is what Bajaj Finance said. And when they talk, you generally listen, right? And then you have all of these consumption-related companies coming out with numbers which haven't really enthused the street in terms of growth. What should one expect?
You know, consumption has been weak across, you see the various, right from consumer staples to, consumer discretionary, the consumption has been weak. And probably staples has been far more weaker. So against that backdrop, it is a question of confidence, and then confidence comes from a lack of, job creation. Job creation, again, is not happening because CapEx is not happening, and that's not happening because tariff is not finalized. So against this whole sequence of events, I think that is the most bigger trigger that we have to wait for.
So how should one play consumption, Chakri? Because there was just so much being spoken about with regard to consumption at the start of this financial year.
Yeah, I guess we never really expected, the tariff to drag out the way it has. And so therefore, consumption has also weakened along over the last few months.
Chakri, a lot of notes today for wealth managers, and the numbers that came out from AMCs as well, at least to optically look pretty good. Are you a buyer into any of these?
Wealth management is seeing a lot of business momentum, both domestically as well as, inflows inbound into the country, as well as Indians investing outside. And so therefore, the wealth managers are the ones who are primary beneficiaries, and Indians across, whether it's high net worths or even the middle class, have woken up and are using financial advisors, and therefore it is indeed a growth business and would buy into this space.
Okay. By the way, viewers, in less than 3 minutes, or 3 minutes from now, we'll give you a complete snapshot of what you should expect from the OTT and the theatre side in terms of things that you can watch to make the most of your weekend. But before we do that, since there are 3 minutes left, Kunal, I'm tempted to ask you, Chennai Petro, after the numbers, has turned out to be the biggest loser, down about 9.3%, and at the top of the pile. It had rallied quite strongly, it's come off quite strongly. What does one do here?
I think definitely it's an exit sell on rise stock. Again, the breakdown has come in, and we can expect further lower levels towards the mark of 600, which is the support zone for the stock. So still currently at 690, any bounce could be an opportunity to exit. You can expect 600 to come in the next couple of trading sessions.
And very quickly, Kunal, so Chennai Petro, MRPL, all of them are down. The last one is the one that had gone up with force and has come down with force as well, Force Motors. 17,800 or thereabouts has come off quite a bit. What do the charts suggest here?
Yeah, I think it was one of the stock where the rally was spectacular. Now, if you look at the chart, it has always taken support at the 20-daily moving average and never breached that. So now that 20-daily moving average, which is placed at 16,328, so say 16,300, should be our stop loss on the downside if you are holding long from the lower levels. If you are initiating fresh longs from the current levels, it's a buy on dip, and 16,300 should be a stop loss on the downside.
Thank you so very much, gentlemen, for joining us this afternoon. We'll let you go on that note. Thanks for coming in, giving us those views. Minute and a half from close, and therefore we go straight to it. Where is the Nifty settling in at? Well, we're down nearly 1% now, but we're just a wee bit off the lows. So really no respite currently being seen, 230 odd points lower, and we've steadily weakened over the last hour and a half of trade. Let's look at the intraday chart, and that's what will reflect that 1% lower on the Nifty Bank as well. So yes, we are absolutely in touching distance to the day's low at this point. The day's low of 24,806, less than 20 points away from that point, and we've fallen considerably from 25k plus. So really the pain is real. Let's look at it intra-week as well, if we can. Let's pull up the weekly chart on the Nifty. And there you go, it's 0.5% lower on the Nifty. Large part of that due to today's crack that we've seen. Let's look at the heat map on the Nifty. And of course, earnings continue to dominate the Nifty 50, has continued to dominate the Nifty all through this week. In fact, Cipla was the one which has led the index as well as the 50 stocks on the index today. 3% higher on a Cipla. SBI Life also on the back of numbers that you're seeing. Dr. Reddy's second straight day of gains, and gains on a day like this, especially after those numbers. So that one also doing fairly well for itself. Sun Pharma, HDFC Life among the chosen few which have actually gained today. The breadth is extremely tough. 25 plus stocks sitting 1% plus lower in trade. So that pain continues, and over 10 stocks sitting 2% plus lower in trade today. So that across the board, there seems to be some bit of pain. Now let me look at the contributors, and within the contributors, I'll be curious to know whether some of the heavyweights have really punched. Not really. Bajaj Finance was one, which is the top loser, and understandably so. Infosys is the other one in terms of the heavyweight, but there aren't any chunky contributions from some of the heavyweights. So it's just the breadth which has actually taken the market lower. Now let me look at sectors, and while we pull that up, what you'll obviously know is pharma will be in the green. There you go, 0.5% higher, and healthcare too on the back of that. But outside of that, pretty much all indices lower. Nifty IT has slipped a wee bit, 1.3% lower. The realty index has slipped quite a bit. It was 0.5% lower. It's currently sitting 1.2% lower. Media continues to be the top loser, but outside of that, defense is one pack where there is pain. The other one is the PSU banking index. Now, I'd be curious to know what it has done for the week. Let's pull up the weekly index on the PSU banking, on the Nifty PSU bank. Give us some perspective, 1.8% lower for the week as well. So it's been a kind of a volatile week for the PSU banking index. One day was the top gainer, the other day the top loser, and today as well, sitting 1.7% lower for the day as well as for the week. I'd also want to know what the realty index has done, because that one is the index where there's been a bit of pain all through this week. 5% lower nearly on the Nifty Realty. 1% down today is where it's settled in at. Let's look at the BSE 500 top gainers, top losers, and thereafter look at the breadth. IEX down 9.5%, not a surprise there. And very, very quickly we are starting to see a couple of Nifty 50 names, Cipla and SBI Life. That just reflects how weak the breadth possibly was. And we'll pull up the breadth in just a minute. Those are some big losers, including the likes of an APL Apollo. Well, the guidance not helping it, and that one down 8% in trade. Let's look at the breadth on the exchange. There you go, not a pretty sight at all. The Nifty mid cap and the small cap, and thereafter the weeklies on both of those, if we may. There you go, the mid cap index down 1.6, so just off the lows, and the Nifty small cap is down 2% intraday. That one is closing very close to the day's lows. The weekly charts on both of those, the Nifty mid cap for the week down 1.4, and the Nifty small cap for the week down 2.9%. So, and a bulk of that has come through today. So something to again keep in mind. What to watch out for over the weekend? A couple of Nifty names which will come out with earnings, but India Forex reserves. Outside of that, you'll have some adjustments as well. Those are all of the corporate adjustments that you'll see come Monday. So that's something to keep on your radar, including the likes of a DLF. Then you have anchor lock-in. You have Stalin India Fluoro, 52% lock-in to expire on Monday. So you want to keep your eye out on that one. Those are all the earnings you want to keep your eye out on. Aadhar, Bank of Baroda being the big ones among the lenders. Well, then there are some smaller lenders along with a Loris and a Pratap. You'll also have the likes of a Kotak, a Tamil Nadu. These are all earnings post-market today, by the way. So all of those will come through. SBI Cards, Tata Chemicals, and SAIL. Kotak Mahindra Bank, this is the one for tomorrow to watch out for. Loda, IDFC for Zen. Zen again, post the numbers of Paras. Zen will also be the other interesting one. Those are some other names for you, companies for Monday. And mind you, so those are companies over the weekend which will have reactions on Monday. These are companies which are going to come out with numbers on Monday. So those are all the names you want to keep your eye out on. And IndusInd Bank will come out with numbers on Monday. And that commentary will be fascinating to watch. Go Digit, Wari, Arvind Fashions, NTPC Green are just some of them. Railtel 2 and a Motherson Sumi Wiring. But with that, completely out of time on this edition of India Market Close. From Neeraj, myself, everyone who puts the show together, thanks so much for watching. Stay with us on NDTV Profit.
Welcome viewers. This is a call for Disruptor show flight dated 25th July.
During my childhood days, we used to rely on rations. My mom used to tell me, go and stand in the queue immediately. Queues is something which I think every Indian is used to.
You've come from this background where you've had to stand in queue for rations. How do you become the CEO of Digi Yatra?
Why should there be so much of friction in availing a service? And from that perspective, I think this whole thought process of Digi Yatra began. We were asked, right, to write a memorable journey experience for the passenger. And I wrote this very simple story saying that, passenger just walks through all the touch points and nobody stops him or her for anything.
The initial teething troubles, talk a bit about that, including the wonder that you had for the back end of this entire process. There were questions on transparency. There were a lot of questions on safety. Why should I give my biometrics to a government agency?
We ran the startup challenge. We had a 6.
Welcome, you're watching Market Express and I'm your host Himakshi Bahugna. Now let's get straight into the show. So viewers, benchmark indices descend through the day to end near their intraday lows. Nifty 50 slipped below its 25,000 mark to conclude trading around 24,800 levels. The 30-pack Sensex also followed the suit and saw cuts of over 600 points. While Cipla's estimates breaking results softened pressure, Infosys, Bajaj Finance and Reliance dragged the benchmark. Except Nifty Pharma, all other sectoral indices wrapped the trading session with notable losses. The biggest losers of the day were media, energy and defense. Paras Defence's Q1 of FY26 revenue rose 11.5% to 93.2 crore rupees from 83.6 crore rupees, driven by optics and defense electronics growth. However, EBITDA fell 9% to 22 crore rupees with margins shrinking to 23.6% from 28.9% due to higher material costs. Net profit also remained flat at 14.9 crore rupees. The company's 928 crore order book supports its 20-30% annual growth target. Cipla's Q1 of FY26 net profit climbed 10.2% to 1,298 crore rupees, fueled by a 3.9% revenue rise to 6,957 crore rupees. India sales grew 6% with the new respiratory drug Voltiro Trio, while North America hit $226 million, led by albuterol. Africa and emerging markets saw 11% and 8% growth respectively. So EBITDA rose 3.6% to 1,778 crore rupees, with margins steady at 25.6%. A major corporate battle is unfolding at Sona BLW. So founded by late industrialist Rani Kapoor, mother of Sanjay Kapoor, is seeking to stop the company's annual general meeting, citing serious concerns. Rani alleges that certain individuals, including Sanjay's wife Priya, are trying to become directors without her consent. So she also claims to have uncovered illegal activities and is being denied access to company's information as the majority shareholder. Rani wants the AGM suspended until these issues are resolved to prevent any decisions from being made, especially regarding the new director appointments. So the move sets the stage for an intense power struggle at Sona BLW. Indian Energy Exchange is bouncing back after a steep 30% fall yesterday. So analysts say that the worst may already be priced in. If markets coupling had hit in FY25, EPS could have dropped 30%. But Q1 numbers beat the estimates thanks to a surge in the other income. Aether Industries delivers a strong Q1 performance with sold growth across key verticals. Revenue surged 42% year-on-year, led by oil and gas and high-performance photography segments. So EBITDA jumped 87% with margins expanding on lower material costs. A new 10-year contract with Milliken marks a major milestone in the contract manufacturing. SBI Life reported a steady Q1 with growth meeting expectations. Annual premium equivalent rose 9% year-on-year, while value of the new business grew 12%. Margins slightly improved due to a favorable product mix. The company also maintains its guidance for mid-teens growth and 26 to 28% VNB margins for FY 2026. Bharat Electronics Limited, the Navratna Defence PSU, secures fresh orders worth 563 crore rupees for advanced navigation systems, communication, equipment and jammers. So the new contracts include National Maritime Domain Awareness Systems, inertial navigation systems and for guns, and active antenna arrays, SATCOM interception systems, seekers, target acquisition systems and associated spares and services. So BEL's order book stands strong at 71,650 crore rupees as of March 2025, with 3,900 crore rupees worth of new orders won since the start of FY26. So this reflects BEL's robust positioning in India's indigenous defense manufacturing and modernization efforts. Enviro Infra Engineers secures two significant letters of award from the Bangalore Water Supply and Sewage Board, totaling 221 crore rupees. So the company will handle the operation and maintenance of the Byatranpur wastewater treatment plant under an 80 crore contract, and the Mahadevpura wastewater treatment plant with 141 crore deal. So both the projects span a 10-year period, underscoring Enviro Infra's growing footprint in sustainable water infrastructure and long-term urban water management solutions. GR Infra Projects emerges as the lowest bidder for a 290.23 crore engineering procurement and construction order to build the Giridih Bypass Road in Jharkhand. So the project covers a total length of approximately 26.67 kilometers and is awarded by the State Highways Authority of Jharkhand. So GR Infra Projects will complete the project within 24 months from the appointed date, strengthening regional connectivity infrastructure development. Dixon Tech receives approval from the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology for its joint venture with Longcheer Intelligence. So the two companies are already partners in smartphone manufacturing, and this new JV aims to boost volume growth significantly. So Longcheer is a key player in supporting popular brands like Realme in India. So this partnership strengthens Dixon's position in the competitive smartphone market and underlines its commitment to expanding domestic production capabilities. EPAC Durable forms a strategic joint venture with South Korea's Bumjin Electronics, with EPAC holding a 66.67% stake and an option to increase its share. So the JV will focus on manufacturing TV speakers, sound bars and other audio devices targeting the Indian market initially. So this collaboration aims to leverage advanced audio technology and tap also into the growing demand for premium sound products in India. So EPAC Durables move strengthen its foothold in the consumer electronics segments and also boost the domestic manufacturing capabilities. Sambhar Steel Tubes delivered a stellar Q1 with revenue up 13% to 559 crore rupees and net profit also soaring 101% to 33 crore rupees. So EBITDA jumped 54% to 73.4 crore rupees with margins expanding 349 basis points to 13.13%. So the company's shift to high margin value-added products and a doubling of GP capacity are key growth triggers. So Tatva Chintan also impressed with Q1 of margins expanding significantly, signaling strong operational efficiency there. Bajaj Consumer announces a buyback of 4.69% of its shares at a premium, boosting shareholder value. So promoters aren't participating. The company merges the manufacturing and distribution arm of its subsidiary Vishal Personal Care into itself to streamline the operations. So this follows a recent buyback in July 2024. CLSA maintains a high conviction outperform rating on REC with the 525 rupees of target price. REC's Q1 profit beats the estimate by 4%, driven by negative credit cost and the TRN Energy restructuring, reducing the gross NPAs to 1.1%. Loan growth is also modest at 10% year-on-year, with operational delays post the short-term hurdles. So CLSA remains optimistic about REC's strong fundamentals and asset quality. Citi maintains a neutral rating on Bajaj Finance with a 983 rupees of target price. Rising stress in the MSME loans and growth risk are concerns, but stable margins and disciplined operating costs provide support. So a detailed succession plan is expected within 6 months, with the leadership transition set for March 2028. Earnings estimates remain largely unchanged. Shriram Finance's Q1 of FY26 net profit rose 6.3% to 2,159 crore rupees, slightly below the NDTV profit estimates of 2,170 crore rupees. So net interest income also grew 10% to 5,773 crore rupees, missing the 5,950 crore rupees forecast. So provisions were lower than expected at 1,286 crore rupees against 1,550 crore rupees. So strong loan growth of 17% year-on-year supported results, despite a dip in the net interest margins to 8.4%. Hexaware Technologies stock over 7.5% after Q2 of calendar year of 2025. Results showed a 400 basis points margin drop to 10.07%. Revenue also grew 1.65% to 3,260 crore rupees, but EBITDA slumped 27.54% due to 16% higher impairment cost. So net profit rose 16.1% to 379.9 crore rupees, driven by banking sector growth. So its utilization hit a 5-quarter high of 83.7%, while Europe led regional growth at 7.9%. Air India is under fire as the DGCA issues 4 show-cause notices for serious crew duty violations. So the regulator cites 29 breaches, including insufficient pilot rest and training lapses. Air India vows to respond within 15 days amid the ongoing safety concerns. DLF and Trident Realty's first Mumbai project, the West Park in Andheri West, sold out all 416 luxury apartments for 2,300 crore rupees in just a few days. So the phase 1, part of a 10-acre SRA project, offers 3 and 4 BHK units at 4 to 7.5 crore rupees. So DLF's return after a 2012 exit taps Mumbai's red-hot luxury market, achieving half its FY26 sales goal and signaling strong investor confidence. At ITC's 114th AGM, Sanjeev Puri managing director of ITC, said that ITC plans to invest 20,000 crore across business in the medium term. So he also said that the company is building a future-ready portfolio with Gen Z poised to become a predominant part of the workforce. So according to him, segments like health and wellness, nutrition, functional foods, organic and naturals are poised to become mega trends of the future. Maruti Suzuki has standardized 6 airbags across all Fronx variants effective today. So this is boosting safety in the compact SUV. Now, the upgrade triggers a 0.5% average price hike as per an exchange filing. So the move follows similar updates to the Ertiga, Baleno and XL6, aligning with Maruti's goal to equip all models with 6 airbags by year end. So Fronx exports also hit 1 lakh units in just 25 months. Bharat Dynamics has secured a 809 crore rupee order from Armoured Vehicles Nigam Limited for supplying anti-tank guided missiles as per an exchange filing. So the order to be executed over 3 years boosts BDL's order book to 3,110 crore rupees, aligning with India's Atmanirbhar Bharat initiative. So the deal strengthens BDL's role in defense manufacturing with no related party interest involved. Shares also rose 2% amid optimism for FY25 growth. Now, in a move to curb obscene and vulgar content, the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting has blocked 25 OTT platforms. So the decision was made in consultation with various ministries, industry bodies and experts. So these platforms were found to be publishing content that was not only objectionable, but also in some cases pornographic. So the government utilized the Information Technology Act and its rules to disable the access to these websites and apps. So this action aims to protect citizens, especially women and children, from exposure to harmful content. The government will continue to monitor and take action against these platforms that violate the norms. Jane Street is not resuming trading in India despite SEBI lifting its ban after the firm deposited 4,843.5 crore in the alleged unlawful gains. The sources tell NDTV Profit that the firm is avoiding large trades due to intense regulatory scrutiny and an ongoing probe also into the possible market manipulation beyond the Bank Nifty index. So Jane Street vows to comply with market norms and has sought more time to respond to SEBI's investigation. The cautious stance reflects concerns over an expanded probe and regulatory heat. Mumbai and MMR region are on orange alert due to heavy to very heavy rains at isolated places. So more heavy rains are expected to continue as the offshore trough has strengthened. Mumbai rains are in fact expected to peak in the next 48 hours, causing heavy downpours. This is also a fair chance of travel disruption likely in low-lying areas. Andheri, Bandra, Dadar, Worli, Kurla, Chembur and Ghatkopar will mostly get the most of the rains throughout the day. Now, in a major boost to India's defense capabilities at DRDO India, successful trials have been carried out of UAV-launched precision-guided missile V3. Now, this was executed in the National Open Area Range in Kurnool, Andhra Pradesh. Now, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh congratulated DRDO for the development and successful trials of these missiles. He said that this success proves that the Indian industry is now ready to absorb and produce critical defence technologies. PM Modi is set to visit Tamil Nadu on 26th and 27th of July. Now he will lay the foundation stone and inaugurate development projects worth over 4,800 crore rupees in Tuticorin. He will also dedicate multiple rail and road projects worth over 3,600 crore rupees. He will also lay the foundation stone for the interstate transmission system for Kudankulam nuclear power plant and for the electricity transmission as well. The Supreme Court of India dismissed a plea to increase the number of assembly seats in Andhra Pradesh and Telangana through delimitation. So the court said that the constitution doesn't allow delimitation exercises to be conducted until after the first census post-2026. Now, this means that any changes to the number of assembly seats in Andhra Pradesh and Telangana will have to wait until then. The court also clarified that Jammu and Kashmir, being a union territory, has different rules for delimitation. Actor turned politician Kamal Hassan marked his parliament debut by taking oath as Rajya Sabha MP in Tamil. So Hassan was elected unopposed by the DMK-led bloc in the Rajya Sabha in June. The actor's entry into the Rajya Sabha marks a milestone in his political career, as he has been given a legislative role for the first time. So in the 234-member Tamil Nadu Assembly, a candidate requires a minimum of 34 votes to win a seat in the Rajya Sabha. Two men disguised as food delivery agents robbed a jewelry shop in Uttar Pradesh's Ghaziabad yesterday. The robbery, which took place around 3:30 p.m., was caught on CCTV. The staff member was seen standing in the corner as they swept the store within minutes. So they then allegedly, fled on a two-wheeler. About 20 kilograms of silver and 125 grams of gold were stolen from the store. 7 children were killed and 2 were critically injured after a government school building collapsed in Rajasthan's Jalwar district. Officials said that around 60 children, besides teachers and staff members, were present in the premises when the roof of the single-story building collapsed. All the children were between 8 and 11 years of age. According to eyewitnesses and local villagers, the roof suddenly caved in due to persistent heavy rainfall over the past few days. Thailand and Cambodia exchanged heavy artillery fire for a second day in their worst conflict in over a decade. So the clashes sparked by a disputed border area killed at least 16 people, mostly Thai civilians, and displaced over 1 lakh. So Thailand's F-16 jets bombed Cambodian military targets, while Cambodia fired BM-21 rockets, hitting civilian areas. So both the nations blame each other for starting the violence. Countries' calls for a ceasefire, including from the US and ASEAN, have gone unheeded. Cambodia's Prime Minister urged a UN Security Council meeting to address this crisis. The $8.4 billion merger between Paramount Global opens a new tab, and Skydance Media wins approval from the US regulators on Thursday, clearing the way for a sale that evolved into a clash over press freedom in the era of President Donald Trump. So the deal will put well-known entertainment properties, including the CBS broadcast television network, Paramount Pictures, and the Nickelodeon cable channel under the ownership of tech giant David Ellison. In the Asia-Pacific region, Tokyo Consumer Price Index inflation eased more than expected in July, a contrast to the Bank of Japan's interest rate hike prospects amid ongoing political uncertainty in the country. Tokyo Core CPI, which excludes volatile fresh food prices, grew 2.9% year-on-year in July compared to expectations of 3% and cooled from the 3.1% seen in the prior month. Well, with that, viewers, it's a wrap on this edition of Market Express, but please don't go anywhere and stay tuned to NDTV Profit, as there's more action lined up ahead on the other side of the break.
Welcome viewers. This is a call for Disruptor show flight dated 25th July.
During my childhood days, we used to rely on rations. My mom used to tell me, go and stand in the queue immediately. Queues is something which I think every Indian is used to.
You've come from this background where you've had to stand in queue for rations. How do you become the CEO of Digi Yatra?
Why should there be so much of friction in availing a service? And from that perspective, I think this whole thought process of Digi Yatra began. We were asked, to write a memorable journey experience for the passenger. And I wrote this very simple story saying that, passenger just walks through all the touch points and nobody stops him or her for anything.
initial teething troubles, talk a bit about that, including the vendor that you had for the back end of this entire process. There were questions on transparency. There were a lot of questions on safety. Why should I give my biometrics to a government agency?
We ran the startup challenge. We had a 6 startup shortlist. 2 of them were offered to build. One of them went ahead and built this ecosystem. And yes, we had a parting of ways.
हेलो बोलिए मैडम, डब्बा ट्रेडिंग कब से चल रहा है पता है मैडम आपको? हम और आप तो जन्म भी नहीं हुआ था हमारा.
We investigated a shady advisory firm that has spent big bucks on advertising on the front pages of national dailies.
ये आपको बिल्कुल उसका ऐसा हल्का सा भी खौफ नहीं है?
मैडम एक बात में खौफ किस लिए रखना चाहिए तो बताओ, कौन सा गलत काम कर रहा हूँ मैं?
After our report, we also saw NSE came out with a cautionary circular to the investors. Market Regulator Securities and Exchange Board of India has also come out with a release talking about the actions that it has taken. Cyber complaint has also been filed against the entities involved in this entire Dabba trading scam.
The markets move fast.
And so should your portfolio. Expert insights, real-time stock picks.
Do I buy Ola?
Should I hold CDSL for the long term?
Buy, sell or hold.
The market notches its 4th consecutive weekly decline, with the Nifty and Sensex faring better than both mid-cap and small-cap indices. Nestle and Trent emerge as the week's biggest laggards, while Nifty IT extends its losing streak to a 3rd straight week. Rani Kapoor, mother of late industrialist Sanjay Kapoor, asked the board of Sona BLW Precision Forging Limited to postpone its AGM, alleging coercion, misuse of documents and unauthorized moves to appoint directors, claiming to represent the family just weeks after her son's death. The INB ministry blocks websites and apps of close to 25 OTT platforms for allegedly providing obscene, vulgar and in some cases pornographic content. Sources tell NDTV Profit global trading firm Jane Street is treading cautiously in the Indian market despite receiving regulatory clearance to resume trading. Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal expresses confidence that the India-UK Free Trade Agreement will be ratified swiftly, noting the pact has historically enjoyed bipartisan support. The SEBI, in collaboration with leading market infrastructure institutions and the Association of Mutual Funds in India, launches a joint campaign titled SEBI vs. Scam, aimed at strengthening investor protection and combating financial scams in the securities market. The National Securities Depository Limited to launch its IPO next week. NSDL is the first and largest securities depository in India. US President Donald Trump criticizes American technology companies for sending jobs and manufacturing abroad. He says winning the AI race would require a renewed sense of national loyalty from US-based firms. Also on the show, it's Friday. We bring to you the buzz at the box office, a detailed report on the movie releases coming up. Good evening, you're watching Profit 360 on NDTV Profit and I'm Sanjana. Along the next half an hour, we're going to bring you the latest in markets as well as national and international news. So let's take a look at how the markets fared this week. It was the fourth straight week of declines for the market, though the Nifty and Sensex managed to outperform their mid and small cap counterparts. The Nifty closed below the 25,000 mark, down 0.9%, while the Sensex saw a drop of close to 1%. All sectors ended the day in the red, with the exception of the pharma sector, which posted gains. For a more detailed market roundup, let's quickly go over to my colleague Harsh.
Well, the margin number will continue to hold the key where Kotak is concerned, as is with all of the other banks. So you'll have your eye out on that margin number. How much does it shrink by? What's the visibility like with regard to margins going forward? Mind you, it's the first full quarter where we have visibility that likely there won't be any more rate cuts. So you'll want to start to see as to where banks are guiding for their margins going forward. The second one is in terms of operating profit, largely expected to be flat on a sequential basis. You're not going to see too much movement on that number flashing on your screen. Profit after tax also largely expected to be flat. Your ROA above 2% will be well held and quite healthy in that sense and taken well by the market. 2.1% kind of ROA. The growth numbers have come out and it's a very strong growth number that Kotak clocked. What you want to see and what you want to hear from management is whether that number is actually sustainable or not. The NPA ratios, the credit costs will also come into picture. The credit cost expected to be...
Right, Harsh, thanks for that. We also spoke to Old Bridge Capital's founder and CIO, Kenneth Andrade, who talked about the ongoing market cycle and whether or not it will change going forward. Let's listen into an excerpt of that conversation.
When capex actually comes up, it's usually followed by first free cash actually getting absorbed by the capex. Plus, then you leverage up your balance sheet also, right? So there's a new element of it all, which is debt coming in. When you have a cycle like that expand itself, valuations tend to tear downwards. So your 23 times have to go to 20 times and 18 times and 19 times because there's a new participant in that EBITDA, which is interest cost, which is where the debt picks up. So I think we're stuck in that right now. Right now, no capex, elevated valuations. If capex comes back, you will get growth, but you'll still have valuations that would erode a little bit. So you're stuck for a while in this zone, and you'll have to go, and you'll really have to go stock picking to find an opportunity out there.
Let's take a look at the earnings. Today, we saw Cipla delivering a solid set of numbers in its first quarter, which the market responded to positively, a 3% increase in its stock price after results. The pharma major's consolidated net profit rose 10%, although growth in revenue from operations was subdued at just 4%. Operationally, EBITDA was up 4% year-on-year, but margins held steady, showing little movement. A reminder that cost pressures are not entirely absent. But let's take a look at the domestic business, which was an important growth engine, accounting for more than 2/5 of overall sale with a respectable 6% uptick. Now let's take a look at Paras Defence's results that told a different story, reflected in its nearly 5% drop in share price following the first quarter release. The company managed an 11.5% growth in revenue but failed to convert that top-line momentum into profit growth as net profit remained flat. Margins contracted and EBITDA actually declined 9%, raising concerns about profitability and operational leverage. Breaking down its segments, optics and optronic systems grew by 10%, that's about 42.5 crore, while defense engineering advanced by 12.6%, that's about 50.7 crore. Yet these gains were overshadowed by the shrinking margins. We'll try and get you more on that this earnings season. But moving on, India's oldest securities depository, the NSDL, is set to hit the public markets with a 4,011 crore IPO opening July 30th. With marquee institutions like IDBI Bank and NSE offloading stakes, the anchor book opens July 29th, ahead of what could be a landmark listing for the country's capital market infrastructure. Sajid now joining us with all you need to know before subscribing to the IPO. Let's listen in.
It's a much awaited listing and it's coming because NSE is one of the shareholders of this company, and they have to bring down the stake to below 15% as per a regulatory requirement. But be that as may, NSDL IPO will open on July 30th, closes on August 1st. The price band is 760 to 800 rupees per share. It's an OFS of 5.01 crore shares, and the size is a little over 4,000 crores in terms of the IPO size there. That gives the company a market value of nearly 16,000 crores, and the lot size for the retail investors, a single lot would be 18 shares there. If you look at some of the sellers in this, IDBI Bank is one of the largest sellers, selling nearly 2.2 crore shares, followed by NSE at 1.8 crores, Union Bank, SBI, HDFC Bank and SUUTI are the other sellers in that stake. NSE currently holds nearly 24% and IDBI Bank owns 26%. HDFC is holding nearly 8%. Deutsche Bank, SBI and SUUTI are the other shareholders, significant shareholders in this company. Now, let's take you through the financials of NSDL, because that's something very interesting, and people would be looking at the valuation also going forward. For FY25, they had a top line of 1,420 crores, EBITDA of 375 crores, and a margin of 26.4 crores, and PAT of 343 crores there. If you compare it with the competitor, which is CDSL, which is already listed in this market, asset under custody for NSDL is at 510 lakh crores compared to CDSL 79. Demat account is 4 crores, but CDL has a very high demat account of 15.86. DPs of 296 and 581, and number of cities which CDSL goes to is 113 versus 2000 for NSDL there. But on the valuation front, NSDL seems to be on a lower side as compared to CDSL. FY25 numbers, if you can compare these numbers there, it had at 1400 crore top line NSDL, while CDSL had 1000 crores of top line, and PAT of 343 crores for NSDL as compared to a PAT of nearly 526 crores. On the valuation, if you look at 20 times is what NSDL will be, 20 is the EPS and 38.6 times is the forward earnings for NSDL of FY26 as compared to 70 times for CDSL. So NSDL is coming at a cheaper valuation as compared to CDSL, and that's something to watch out for.
Thanks, Ajit, for that. And moving on to our top focus this evening, Sona BLW is under a cloud of controversy following a letter from Rani Kapoor, mother of the late chairman Sanjay Kapoor, urging the board to postpone the upcoming annual general meeting. In her strongly worded communication to the board, Rani Kapoor alleges coercion and improper use of company documents, signaling deepening internal strife. She expresses grave concerns about perceived moves to undermine the Kapoor family's legacy within the company. Asserting her position as the majority shareholder, citing her late husband's will, Rani Kapoor objected to major board appointments being made without her explicit consent. Now, this includes voicing strong reservations over the highly contentious nomination of Priya Sachdev Kapoor to the board. Now, the development has placed Sona BLW in the spotlight, raising fresh questions about governance, succession, and the control at the top of the organization. Let me quickly go across to my colleague Puneet now, who's going to provide a detailed background on this entire case and explain the Kapoor family tree to help us better understand the context behind the ongoing dispute. Puneet, please take it from here.
Well, a key major update for shareholders of Sona BLW, Rani Kapoor, the mother of late Sanjay Kapoor, the managing director of Sona BLW, has sent a letter to the board of directors mentioning to them about some key aspects and alleging that there's been coercion, misuse of documents, as well as attempts to usurp the family legacy in a sensational new letter. She's also gone on to say some key aspects. She's mentioned that she is the only authority who represents the interest of the Kapoor family in Sona BLW. She's also gone on to say that she is the majority shareholder of the company by virtue of her late husband's will, and gone on to say that she's facing various hurdles, including no access to documents or even her own bank account. It is imperative that no decisions are taken at the AGM is what she's sent in the letter, and alleged coercion, documents misuse, as well as attempts to usurp the family legacy. especially after her son's untimely death. Now, Rani Kapoor, as I mentioned, is the mother of late businessman Sanjay Kapoor and has written to the board for deferment of the AGM, but that AGM took place at 1 p.m. today, and we are still awaiting the key details of some key resolutions passed there as well. Let's also quickly look at the family tree, because this was group Sona BLW was founded by Surinder Kapoor, who was the founder of the company and was married to Rani Kapoor, and she was the mother of 3 children. One of them was Sanjay Kapoor, who was the MD before his untimely death in June of 2025. Apart from that, she has 2 daughters as well, Suparna as well as Mandira, who were her 2 daughters. In terms of Sanjay Kapoor, let's also look at his family tree, because he had 3 wives. The first one was Nandita, the other one was the actress Karishma Kapoor, and Priya Sachdev, who has been now nominated in the board of directors, subject to regulatory approval in the AGM as well. Sanjay Kapoor also had 2 children from Karishma Kapoor, as well as one with Priya Sachdev as well. So this is the kind of family tree for Sona BLW. For the company, this is a difficult time, because it is going through its own challenges with the tariff impact looming on the company as well as the sector. For Sona specifically, 79% of the company's total revenue or total order book currently comes from the EV space. So it is getting impacted by tariffs. Apart from that, this coming in at a very key time, especially on the day of the AGM, will potentially open a Pandora's box of what could lead and come from this aspect as well. But we'll be bringing you all key updates from this and more, so do stay tuned to NDTV Profit.
Thanks for that, Puneet. And we also spoke with senior advocate Vaibhav Gagar about the ongoing Kapoor family dispute. Now, he pointed out that if Rani Kapoor had intended to name a specific individual in her letter to the board alleging coercion and misuse of documents, she would have done so explicitly. Notably, she chose not to. Let's listen in.
Who is this directed at? Who are the certain individuals who have to be confirmed by the board as directors that Rani Kapoor has an issue with?
If she wanted to name the individuals, she would have named them in the letter. There's a reason that she's not naming them. It is the stakeholders are privy to the name. They know who it is. But she wants to ensure that this does not turn into a public spat or a public affair. She's looking at ensuring that the interests of the family as well as the business is maintained and is not prejudiced in any manner, and therefore she's chosen not to take names.
Pretty obvious that on the AGM's list of business is the name of Priya Sachdev Kapoor. Is this aimed at her?
Could potentially be. She just wants to make sure that the family is properly represented.
Why would the wife of the late Sanjay Kapoor not be a proper representation of the family? Because
as per the family will by Shri Surinder Kapoor, that's Sanjay's late father, was also the founder of the group. The entire assets, shareholding, etc., everything was willed exclusively to Mrs. Rani Kapoor back in 2015 when Shri Kapoor expired. She is the head of the family. She needs to make sure that things are taken and done in the right manner. And she has also expressed in the letter very categorically that a number of things have come to light leading up to the death and immediately thereafter, which has caused grave apprehension and suspicion in her mind. And she wants to get to the heart of the matter at the earliest.
Now we'll continue tracking that story and bring you all the latest developments. Moving on, turning to recent regulatory actions, the INB ministry has blocked apps and websites of 25 OTT platforms, including popular names like Ullu, Alt Balaji and Desi Flix, citing concerns over obscene, vulgar and pornographic content. For a detailed update on the government's advisory and what this means for viewers and the digital content landscape, let me go over to my colleague Himakshi, who's standing by. Himakshi, give us all the details.
Rightly said, Sanjana. So the Broadcast Ministry has actually directed the blocking of websites of 25 OTT platforms over concerns of obscene and vulgar content. So this action, however, wasn't just taken in isolation, because the ministry consulted with a wide range of stakeholders, starting from the Home Ministry to the Ministries of Women and Child Development, Electronics and IT, along with legal departments as well, and industry bodies like the FICCI and CII, and also experts on the women and child rights. Now, the platforms have been blocked under provisions of the Information Technology Act of 2000 and IT rules of 2021. So, in total, 28 OTT platforms have been taken down, and some of the names, under the scanner are Big Shots, Desi Flix, BoomX, NeonX, VIP, Ullu, Halchal, and Fugi. So the government has flagged that these platforms, for carrying content heavy with sexual innuendos, nudity, pornography, and also vulgar depictions of sex in inappropriate contexts. So authorities say that the content violated Section 67A of the IT Act, Section 292 of the IPC, and Indecent Representation of Women Act 1986. Back to you, Sanjana.
Right, Himakshi, thanks so much for that. We'll continue tracking this and bring you all of the details. Moving on now, despite receiving a go-ahead from SEBI, Jane Street appears to be playing its cards very close to its chest. Sources tell NDTV Profit that the firm has adopted an extremely cautious stance, deliberately staying away from large trades in the Indian market. Let's go across to Charu for all of the details on the story.
So the market regulator, Securities and Exchange Board of India, very recently allowed the high-frequency trading firm Jane Street to come into the Indian markets once again after it paid a penalty of over 4,800 crore rupees in an escrow account. Now, what is interesting here is that despite pushing for the bans on it to be lifted by paying this amount, the firm is not engaging in very active voluminous trades for now, as per several sources that NDTV Profit spoke to. Now, this is due to two major reasons. One is the heightened scrutiny, and number two is the expanded scope of investigation that SEBI has undertaken against the firm. Now, we already know that all of the illegal gains that were mentioned in the SEBI order were related to the Bank Nifty index at the NSE. However, the investigation from BSE's side and investigation in other indices also needs to be managed. So the impounded illegal gains amount, the quantum could increase exponentially, and the penalty amount could also increase, which also means that it could, be something that could be sidelined as well, but it could in all likelihood increase tremendously, and that is why it is also a reason, because of the scrutiny and the amount that could increase in terms of how much gains they have made, that they are taking a more silent approach for now. Now, we must also understand some other things that are happening in the case for now. There is no plan to go to SAT for now. There is no action notice sent to the entity for now, and that is why they cannot get a personal hearing either. However, before they were allowed to enter back into the Indian markets, they had given an undertaking to the regulators saying that they will not be taking part in any manipulative practices. Now, this was the undertaking after which they were allowed back. Apart from this, also they have sought more time from SEBI to file their reply in response to the order that had come. They had sought an extension, will need more time to come out with some points in their defense. So we need to see how other developments roll out in this term.
Right, Charu, thanks so much for that. And on to our other big focus, the India-UK FTA. Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal has called the signing of the FTA a historic moment and said that there will be immense opportunities. He added that it would open numerous doors for both countries. Now, India and the UK, if you remember, have officially signed their long-awaited free trade agreement last evening. Let's listen into the Commerce Minister.
आज यूनाइटेड किंगडम और भारत के बीच एक बहुत ही बेहतरीन फ्री ट्रेड एग्रीमेंट साइन हुआ है। माननीय प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी के नेतृत्व में और मार्गदर्शन में भारत ने अपने सभी हितों को सुरक्षित रखते हुए ढेर सारे नए अवसर खोलने का काम इस फ्री ट्रेड एग्रीमेंट के माध्यम से किया है। जो भी सेक्टर्स भारत के लिए सेंसिटिव रहते हैं, हमारे फार्मर्स के लिए, हमारे एमएसएमईज के लिए, उदाहरण के लिए डेयरी है या राइस है, शुगर है, इन सब सेक्टर्स को खोला नहीं गया है, इन सबको सुरक्षित रखा गया है और भारत के लिए जो आवश्यकताएं हैं जिसमें हमें यूके से सामान मिलने में भारत को लाभ होगा, उसमें विशेष फोकस किया गया है.
Now, the industry is abuzz with anticipation over the FTA, and NDTV's Group Executive Editor Vishnu Som sat down with Sunil Bharti Mittal, founder and chairman of Bharti Enterprises, to discuss his perspective on this pivotal development and what it could mean for the future of India-UK business relations.
Well, in any FTA, there are pressures from both sides. What you want is what the other side resists and vice versa. And it's therefore rare to see two large economies like India and UK, or two large nations, getting to a common ground to sign an FTA. So therefore, we must not underestimate the historic moment that this beholds for all of us, and especially the two countries. The current trade is at about $56 billion. The ambition of both the prime ministers is to take this to $120 billion in just 5 years. Now, this is an ambitious target, but achievable. Because I have always maintained that there is a high degree of complementarity between the UK and India. What we need is what they have, and what we have is what they need. What does India give? A huge market, that is evident. Big talent pool, very, very special ingredient today in the world. And then, of course, it has low-cost manufacturing availability in India. On the other hand, UK has technologies, especially high-tech technologies on nuclear, on space, on defense, biosciences. And this is where India can benefit by tying up with the British companies, or British companies investing in India.
Right, that's all the time we had on this edition of Profit 360. Stay tuned to NDTV Profit for more news and updates.
Welcome viewers. This is a call for Disruptor show flight dated 25th July.
During my childhood days, we used to rely on rations. My mom used to tell me, go and stand in the queue immediately. Queues is something which I think every Indian is used to.
You've come from this background where you've had to stand in queue for rations. How do you become the CEO of Digi Yatra?
Why should there be so much of friction in availing a service? And from that perspective, I think this whole thought process of Digi Yatra began. We were asked, to write a memorable journey experience for the passenger. And I wrote this very simple story saying that, passenger just walks through all the touch points and nobody stops him or her for anything.
The initial teething troubles, talk a bit about that, including the vendor that you had for the back end of this entire process. There were questions on transparency. There were a lot of questions on safety. Why should I give my biometrics to a government agency?
We ran the startup challenge. We had a 6 startup shortlist. 2 of them were offered to build. One of them went ahead and built this ecosystem. And yes, we had a parting of ways.
हेलो बोलिए मैडम, डब्बा ट्रेडिंग कब से चल रहा है पता है मैडम आपको? हम और आप तो जन्म भी नहीं हुआ था हमारा.
We investigated a shady advisory firm that has spent big bucks on advertising on the front pages of national dailies.
ये आपको बिल्कुल उसका ऐसे हल्का सा भी खौफ नहीं है।
मैडम एक बात, खौफ किस लिए रखना चाहिए तो बताओ, कौन सा गलत काम कर रहा हूँ मैं?
After our report, we also saw NSE came out with a cautionary circular to the investors. Market Regulator Securities and Exchange Board of India has also come out with a release talking about the actions that it has taken. Cyber complaint has also been filed against the entities involved in this entire Dabba trading scam.
The markets move fast.
And so should your portfolio. Expert insights, real-time stock picks.
Do I buy Ola? Should I hold CDSL for the long term?
Buy, sell or hold.
The answers you need, straight from the experts.
Callers from India and across the world. Connect live, ask, decide and invest wisely.
Your portfolio, your future. Ask Profit.
Do you really know the company you invest in? What is the real picture behind presentations and claims? Is the outlook as rosy as the company claims? Know Your Company, powered by NDTV Profit Research, shines a light on the biggest stock market movers.
हेलो, बोलिए मैडम, डब्बा ट्रेडिंग कब से चल रहा है पता है मैडम आपको? हम और आप तो जन्म भी नहीं हुआ था हमारा।
We investigated a shady advisory firm that has spent big bucks on advertising on the front pages of national dailies.
Hello and welcome. You're watching KYC. I'm Harsh Sahita. Today we're going to be talking about a company which is recently listed but has given a stellar return to investors. We're going to talk to Sambhav Steel, understand what their numbers seem to suggest, what their guidance seems to suggest, but most importantly, there are some things which I really want to know, which I'm going to start off with. You know, what is it that I really want to know? What is the top line growth expectation like FY26 and thereon? They're currently at around 70% capacity utilization on their current capacity. Whether there is any expansion in the pipeline and what that growth expectation looks like over the next 2 to 3 years. So that's the first piece. The second one, with regard to what I want to know is the impact of the debt repayment on profit after tax, and thereafter what is therefore the sustainable PAT margin, because that's not a number where we have enough comfort that the PAT margin is going to look like maybe, for example, at 5% or 7% or 4%. We're seeing a variance there, and therefore we want to understand what the PAT margin will look like, and along with it, what the EBITDA margin will look like. Now, on the EBITDA margin front, the guidance is 13%. They've done 13% in Q1 FY26, but for the last few years, they haven't done that. So I want to know what is it in terms of change in FY26 and beyond that they're looking at versus the current or the FY25 context. The fourth piece is with regard to competition, pricing and growth. And this is important because you're in a highly commoditized business, right? Where pricing pressure will come. And if that happens, what happens to growth therefore? Where does the top line number go even if volumes inch up? PAT margins have compressed. We did speak about that. Will that at all unwind? Will be one question I'll want to know. And I want to also understand working capital and receivables have gone up substantially over the last couple of years. Is that in the normal course of business? Is that how they look at it? So will operating cash flow always be 80% or so of EBITDA, which has been the case for the last couple of years? Or can we see an unwind over there? Because you want to understand whether there's an upside surprise. Last off, now after this kind of a rally, and I've not written it here, I want to understand where do valuations go. So once we speak with the management, we'll get better perspective of that. But let's talk about the company. Let's start off with what the company does. It's a manufacturer of ERW, which is electric resistant welded pipes and tubes. These are typically used across India. You'll see it on construction sites that you would have typically visited or you would have seen from the outside. And you'll see it in terms of agriculture, where water is getting transported in electric or steel pipes and structural tubes. There's a huge demand for that where India is concerned. Company was incorporated in 2017, got listed less than a month ago on 2nd of July 2025. The IPO price was 82 rupees. Currently it trades at 140 rupees a piece in terms of the stock price. So clearly we've seen huge traction where the stock price is concerned. It even listed at a large premium and thereafter has run up. Steel manufacturing is in Raipur, but moreover in Chhattisgarh more than Raipur. And even in terms of the backward integration that they've done, sponge iron is what they've backward integrated, billets, HR, CR coils, as well as pipes. So across the board, they are well integrated from a backward integration perspective. They also generate some of their own power, which also has a capacity utilization of nearly 90%. So some things to keep in mind. It's one of the leading ERW steel pipe makers and of pipes, tubes and value-added products. And it has extensive relationships with Indian distributors, dealers, and has also a direct customer base. It continuously seeks to expand capacity. Stainless steel, GP pipes and special grades is what they are diversifying to. They are serving construction, infra, auto, OEMs. Well, in the auto space, talk about exhaust pipes. They are one of the manufacturers there. Industries, process industries and retail. So they're across the board. Let's talk about some intermediate products which also they manufacture to enable them to manufacture the finished product as well. So within the intermediate products, there's sponge iron, which is used as a refined feedstock in steel making. They've got blooms and slabs, which are semi-finished, mild and stainless steel products. They have HR coils, which is hot rod coils, which are mild steel and stainless steel coils produced using advanced technology. You have cold roll coils, and then you have galvanized plain coils. So all of those are used in the manufacture of the finished product. Now, in terms of the finished product, also they have certain specific products which they make. ERW black pipes, which is electric resistant welded pipes. GI pipes, which are more zinc coated, but they are essentially ERW pipes itself. GP pipes, which is pre-galvanized pipes. Steel door frames is also what they make. SS HRAP coils also is something they make. SSCR coils, which is cold roll coils, is what they make. And cotton steel pipes. So across the board, that is their presence in terms of finished product, but largely in the pipe segment, and therefore that gives you better context on what their competition also looks like and will help us understand valuations as well. Now, where do they sell and how do they sell? They have 43 distributors as of FY25 year end, 700 distributors and retailers covering pan-India markets. So that's on the retail side of things. They have direct clients as well. Their direct clients are in construction and infra space, government organizations, steel manufacturers, as well as other manufacturers, and their end use sectors, retail customers, OEMs, contract manufacturers, fabricators. So across the board, that's how it plays out. In terms of industry-wise sales, traders, distributors are the largest piece of the sale pie, where the revenue comes from. Steel manufacturers are the other ones. Then there are infra companies and manufacturers, which also